As a driven dentist, you see the world differently. Where some see scarcity, you see abundance. When others want to give up, you keep going. You're building an amazing life of significance. That means you can't rely on ordinary advice from ordinary advisors to get to your goals. You want advice that's going to help maximize your net worth so you can take even better care of the people you love, the causes you care about, and make your dent in the universe. But the fact is, this advice remains hidden because relatively few professionals are well versed in them, and the extremely affluent don't care to let you know about them. Join us as we pull back the curtain to reveal the often hidden advice and strategies used by today's most successful individuals and families. Welcome to Dental Wealth Nation. Here's your host, Tim McNeely.
Welcome, everyone. I am so excited that you are here today. And if you're anything like me, you are a lifetime learner. You love educating not just yourself, but your patients too. But I want to encourage you to think about something a little bit different today. And that's why educating your referring offices, the people who depend on you and the people who come to you, it's one of the best ways for you to get not just better results for your patients, but also to experience practice growth. You're going to have insights into how to make your study club even better. And if you don't have one, you're going to want to get out there and start one. But most importantly of all, you're going to feel inspired to become a local leader in your community. And when it comes to helping dentists become leaders in their community by really establishing study clubs and working on implants and just serving their patients so well, one of the best out there is Lynn. And what I love about Lynn is she loves helping dentists not just be leaders, but also resources for the community. And Lynn is the owner of Practice at Your Best. And today she's going to help you do just that. Lynn, welcome to the show.
Tim, thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting.
Oh, I'm thrilled you're here. We've got people tuning in. If you got questions, post them in the chat, stick around. And if you stick around until the end, you're going to get some special stuff too. So please ask questions, make this interactive. And Lynn, would you just share a little bit about how you got started doing this and how you really started educating dentists on dental implants and the maintenance of these things?
Absolutely. So I have always been, I've been a hygienist for my career, and I started working in industry. And I noticed the study clubs as a sales rep was a great place to meet with the doctors. When I transferred over from working with a loop company over to Nobel Biocare, I became the provider of the continuing education courses. And what I picked up is there were some offices who had great relationships with their referring offices and had other offices that were looking to grow their practices, not so much organized with their study groups. And when you suggested, why don't we do something? They wanted bring in the A speaker and the steak dinners, and it wasn't the intimate study groups. And what happens is during these meetings, it gives you the opportunity to interact with your referring offices. And it's good to have these big meetings with the big speakers, but it's even more important when you're starting out, when you're working with referring offices, make sure that we all know the same thing and to provide many classes for the referring offices. Do a class on risk assessment. Is this a good patient, good candidate for an implant? The patient has an implant, but the medications are changing. The patient's getting older. And to make sure that the offices are on the same page of when to refer the patient back to the surgeon. Because when I worked with surgeons, I found it wasn't uncommon for them to place an implant and not see the patient again for years when the implant's failing. And that patient was coming in for routine maintenance, but the implant's failing and they didn't know it's okay to send the patient back to the specialist for assessment because they can treat peri-implantitis. They can help prevent a case from failing. When I talked with hygienists, I found that not all of them were confident in what to do with implant patients. When we go to school, we learn about natural teeth. And yeah, I mean, you pick and choose the continuing ed you take. And if it's being provided by a referring office, by a surgical office, and you go as an office together, the doctor and the hygienist together, you're all on the same page. Because you'll also find out that the dentist will take a class, learn about a product, bring it back to the office and say to the hygiene staff, we should use this. And the hygiene staff's like, not so interested. I mean, slow it down. And they're not on the same page. So for the dentist and the hygiene staff to attend study clubs together is a good way of implementing new techniques.
Wow.
You see the opposite. You see the hygienist take a class and they want to implement something and they bring it to the office and the doctor's like, I need more research. And this way, if they're all together, the whole office works, more cohesively.
I've got so many questions around this, Lynn, and I'm just so
Yeah.
fascinated. And I know first and foremost that as a busy entrepreneur myself, and I know there's a
Mhm.
lot of busy dentists out there who are
Yeah.
running practices and they're so overwhelmed by everything. My first question is with everything we have to do,
Yeah.
like, does this really make sense for us to do a study club? Like maybe they're involved in a study club or they go to one, like, is it really worth the effort?
So we all have to take continuing education to maintain our state licensure. So if you're looking to build relationships, you, a surgical practice dependent on your referring offices, if we're all dependent on taking the same continuing education to maintain our licenses, CPR, opioids, child abuse, human trafficking, we're all required to take these classes to maintain our state licensure. Why not provide those classes? Make that an environment, a touch point where you can talk, where you can see your referring offices.
Hmm.
And then also provide classes on case maintenance, case building with implants. It's really neat to see a group of dentists get together and case plan together one case, and they see how to work with a digital workflow. And it's a nice way also, if you have a digital system that communicates with other offices, that you learn cases together. So you schedule that for a small group. So as a study group, you're also helping the other offices become more savvy, become more work efficient, and work better together.
Hmm.
So that study group actually, you say we're going to meet first Tuesday every month, set an agenda. And then the thing was, I noticed with some study groups that weren't planned well is who's available, can we afford them? And it's nice to have those big meetings, but it's also important to have these small meetings where you all learn together.
Hmm.
And it builds, it's a relationship builder. It's a trust builder. And this way, when an office has a case that's appropriate, you can say, this is who you want to see. They're going to take care of you the right way.
Well, right. Well, what are some steps that offices can really take to make this an easier process so that it doesn't feel so overwhelming? Because I know some people may be listening and thinking, man, setting an agenda, setting 1 week a month out, like food and staff, like it's a lot. So like what are some easy steps that we can take either to start a study club or to improve our existing study clubs?
Absolutely. I think you should write down your systems. So when it comes to ordering food, when it comes to inviting the offices, have one employee be in charge and have the employee make notes. And this way, if something happens, maternity leave, COVID, if something happens where you have a patient or you have an employee that's not going to be in the office for a week or 2 weeks, you're able to have somebody else take over the procedures. And with these systems, you get routine. And with routine, it becomes easier and easier. But it's finding the systems, setting the agenda. And that's something that, you just have to sit down one day, pre-plan what you want to do and see if it sets out.
Now, do you recommend just inviting the referring offices? Should we invite their staff? Like, how do we really start building this? So that
depending on the topic, absolutely. Depending on the topic, you may invite just the doctors, or you may invite the staff. You may just invite the hygiene staff. You may be inviting the assisting staff. So if it comes to something like restoring, and the restoring office is confident with their assistant working with the torque wrench. I'm in Pennsylvania. We have expanded function dental assistants. They're like mini dentists. They can do anything but drill. Okay. And so, if you have an assistant who you're confident with, bring them to the restorative classes. If they're peri-implantitis classes, peri-implant maintenance classes, invite the hygiene team. But I would encourage the doctor and the staff to go together. And this way, they're all on the same page.
Right. And who do you recommend lead these study clubs? Should it be the doctor who's running it? Do you bring in speakers? Like, talk to me a little bit about really creating an engaging study.
This is where your implant rep could be very valuable to you, because when I worked for Nobel, we had curriculum. And what I did with some classes is we set a curriculum. We brought in models. We did hands-on experience. I brought in my dental lab. My dental lab had new technology. So my dental lab wanted to show the new technology. So we invited the lab to show information. We wanted to learn about lasers. We brought in a laser rep to talk about lasers. I mean, there's so many different things you can do. You can also have 1 hour with a speaker and 1 hour with a, probiotics, with a different representative. So you can do this as a 2-hour class, learn about a product. Then it's fair to ask that representative to help cover costs for the dinner. So, and it's a nice way of mixing and getting different information.
You can do these at a way where really you can engage the community and the people you're probably already working with. And my guess is the reps would be probably pretty happy to help you put on a study club.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're going to find that there's some surgeons who work with one implant company only. And so the referring offices will only need to know about one torque wrench and one set of torque values. And then you'll have another oral surgeon who is more dependent on the referring offices, and the referring offices are comfortable with multiple different implant companies. So this surgeon will become comfortable working with multiple implant companies. So then, the surgeon who works with one implant company may have more support from the one implant company than the second surgeon who works with multiple implant companies. But if you work with multiple implant companies, each one may donate, say, a smaller amount towards a study group, and then you can support multiple study groups with different companies.
Wow.
So, and then you mix and match. When I worked with Nobel, I was part of Invista. So I was part with Dexis and Oroscopic. It was funny. I moved from Oroscopic to Nobel. I moved within Invista. That's how I got to where I am. But we would invite the other companies within Invista to our study groups. If we had a large study group with a bigger budget, we try to bring in more companies to help us support the bigger, the A speakers.
Now, we started off the show really talking about why education is so important. And it's one of the best ways you can get better results for your patients and to help grow your practice. And one of the things you talk a lot about is this education gap. And so would you share what this education gap is? What do you mean by that when you say it? And let's dive in and talk about that some.
Absolutely. So if a surgeon presents to hygienists, the surgeon typically will show the surgical aspect, the case planning, show the CBCT scan, show the alveolar ridge augmentation. We now have the larger ridge. We place the implant. We work with the grafting material. And here's the hygienist in the back of the room, just glazed over, because none of this really applies to what they work with. But if the hygienist can understand that you need to do that case building to have a better, what do we say? You always plan the case from the prosthetics. You want the appropriate implant size to match the size of the crown. You don't want a skinny little implant with a big, huge crown. And so here's that gap where the hygienist doesn't understand why the surgeon's presenting this information about ridge augmentation and growing the ridge. The hygienist is really more interested in the end result. And it sometimes takes hearing that same message over a few times, that we need to grow alveolar bone to support a bigger implant, to fit appropriate to the size of the crown, so we don't have a skinny little implant making a food impaction because the balance is off.
Okay.
So, and it's taking that time to educate so that, so what happened, patients don't understand this. And the patient's like, well, I don't want the bone grafting. I want to save money. I don't want the bone grafting. And then they get the skinny implant with the big crown and the food impaction, where, and then they're not happy with the end result. So if the whole team, the hygienist, the referring dentist, the surgeon, all are able to explain to the patient why ridge augmentation is appropriate, why we need to graft and grow bone, the case acceptance may be greater. So we all work together, and you'll find that a patient doesn't like the price, you're too much, and they'll go somewhere else, and they'll go to somebody who's not quoting for ridge augmentation and places the skinny implant with a big crown with food impaction, and they got the price they wanted. So it's this is really about how do we all give the same message to the patient so the patient understands we're trying to do the best possible care we can for them.
I love that. So tell me a little bit also about Practice at Your Best and what you're doing there.
So Practice at Your Best is my LLC. I have a lecture series for implant maintenance. When I was in transition, I was asked by one of my colleges locally to present on basics of implants, and the class went over very well. So I have a sorted curriculum, basics in maintenance, dental hygiene considerations for full arch reconstruction. So you'll have these patients with all implants, and we may need to take the prosthetic off to evaluate the health of the tissue underneath it. And then I have a class on chemistry and compatibility. It kind of sounds like dating, but what I've learned is there's lots of medicaments and tools that we typically use as hygienists that are not appropriate on implants, like the jet and baking soda. We should not be using baking soda on the implants. It can cause corrosion. It can cause implant failure. We should be working with erythritol and glycine. And if the office isn't bringing in, or if the office isn't taking classes at this level, they may not have this information. And this is the type of information that needs to be presented at the study groups. This is why we should be having these type of classes, because we all work in fishbowls. You think about this, it's just a little enclosed environment, and we're taking CE, but we're taking CE in what we're interested in, and we may be missing this information.
Oh, how true. And so we've got listeners logging in, watching, if you've got questions for Lynn, please let us know in the comments below. We'd love to have your interaction and know what's on your mind and how we can best serve you. We're talking about just the importance of building study clubs and educating your team so that everyone is on the same page. And so Lynn, with practice at your best, so it's primarily education and courses, and this is materials doctors could use in their study club then, isn't it?
Absolutely. I'm available to help with the study clubs also. I'm available to help you if you're looking to, how do we develop some curriculum? What are we looking to do? What's our goals for our office? What kind of cases do we want to be doing? Is this an office that likes to do single tooth anterior implants? And how do we communicate that the soft tissue looks as if there was never any work done, compared to if somebody didn't graft, there's little black triangles where the tissues didn't fill in the interproximal space the right way. And if you finish a case with those black triangles, the patient's going to be like pointing at it every time they go see you because they're not happy with the aesthetics. So, how do you communicate to your community? These are the type of cases we like to provide.
Wow. Well, and as you and I talk, I sense so much passion around this topic for you. Where does that come from? Why are you so excited about this?
So, when I was hired by Nobel, I thought, this is easy. I'm a hygienist. I'm going to figure this out. And I was wrong, man. It's leaving a whole different industry. And it takes years to really understand implants. So those first few years, all this information's coming at me and it's not making sense, because all I wanted to know is what is appropriate to maintain these after they're delivered. That was the answers I wanted. And I wasn't finding it as easily as I was looking for it. So I knew in the network and the bubble I was looking in, it wasn't developed to the level I wanted it. So I got to develop these classes. And the nice thing about it is you're constantly learning. There's always something new. I'm writing an article right now about whether or not it's appropriate to apply fluoride varnish on mixed dentitions. If the patient's got acidic pH, will this corrode the implant? So these are like unusual questions you don't think about.
Yeah.
So it's fun. This has really been a lot of fun for me. It lets me be the dental nerd I am. And usually if I can't find an answer, I know who to call to ask and see if I can be pointed in the right direction. And that's the fun part about this, is the networking of it.
Yeah. What have been some challenges that you've faced as you've worked on, building your business and getting out there, right? We're talking to other dentists, other business owners, and I always love to share those stories so that we know we're not alone.
Oh gosh, no, my biggest problem is organization. I love working on the PowerPoint and the explanation of the answer, the communicate. I'm moving from Outlook into a CRM, and I am now learning a whole different software system for communication. And I'm sure once I jump in the pond with both feet, it's going to be fine after a few weeks. But like today, I found an email from somebody who reached out to me while I was on vacation, and I missed it because I was in that transition. And that, if you don't respond to an email within 24 hours, that's not good. Those are my expectations of how I perform. I want to be that responsible person. And during this transition, I missed something and I felt horrible about it. And I got to learn how to stop beating myself up over these things. Okay. But for me, it's organization. The explanation and getting information out there is good. Social media to me is just not in my nature. I need to have someone help me with social media.
Well, right, and kind of coming back to the theme of just, once again, educating our communities, becoming leaders in our community, bringing the team together better. What are some common strategies, or how do you recommend the doctors actually get the word out about their study club?
So you have your referring offices. Keep an Excel spreadsheet of your referring offices. Keep a record, who's referring what type of cases. Ask them to lunch, ask them to coffee, ask them, hey, let's get together. Let's talk about where you are in your practice. So you need this time to network with your referring offices. Ask, take them out to coffee, take them out for a beer, take them out for a dinner. And, tell me about your practice. What do you like to do? What do you want to be doing more? How can I help you? How can I, as a surgeon, help you grow your practice? What kind of cases are you getting? And ask them, what do they need help with? And if they need help with their website, their marketing, their social media, there's resources out there to help the private practice, the general dentist. So it's fine, it's that communication and finding where everybody is.
No. So are there some success stories you can share with offices that you've helped really build a robust study club? And what are some of the results that you've seen from putting in the hard work of doing this?
At this time now, I'm being invited into study clubs. When I was helping grow study clubs, I had one office, young doctor, had a nice network of referring offices. So he was the young doctor taking over an older practice. So now he's bringing in new restoring offices for his referrals, and he wants to have the big meeting with the steak dinner, which would be awesome. But my budget as the implant rep didn't quite warrant where this person was, and I was trying to. This is the budget I can work with right now this year. I think I can get the steak dinner next year. What can we do now? It's that there's reality in things, and yeah, it's if we do something smaller in a more intimate environment, this could work out. So this particular person, I never really got to the level I wanted to with, but it was that communication and trying to help them that was kind of interesting. We did a study group down the shore, Jersey, and we wanted to do it in an environment where we knew if you build it, people would come. And we did it down the shore, and the marketing was phenomenal, and we had people coming from North Jersey down to South Jersey. It was really neat the way this happened. This was a dental lab. They did this type of routine 2-3 times a year. And it was like, what do you want to do different? Let's do an away game. Let's do it down the shore. And we did it just before the season started. We had a packed room. We had a young speaker. And I mean, it was just a really nice environment. So, it's asking the team, what do you want to do and how do we make it work out for you?
I love that. Are there any specific tools or publications that you really recommend for practitioners looking to improve how they're doing the study clubs, or when it comes to the implant maintenance practices?
Now that you ask, I think I should be making that resource, How to Build a Better Study Club. Okay. Now that you say that, I keep a documentation. I have a little spreadsheet of everything we should make sure we're paying attention to.
Oh my gosh, fantastic.
Details, who's bringing the projector, is the venue providing the projector? Are we bringing our own projector? Microphone, what does the speaker prefer? Lavalier, hand microphone. And you're going through, it's a checklist of all the details. If we're having products sent in prior to the event, where are they going to be received? And confirm that person who's going to be receiving, because I'll order samples for my events. And we'll do like a Oprah's favorite thing. We'll have lots of different samples of products for the hygienist to try out when I host my classes. And I need to know, is the dental office okay receiving the product? Do I bring the product? Where am I going to have? Do you send it to the venue? Can you risk the venue losing your packages? So it's a nice little checklist I work off of.
Oh, that's fantastic. And how can we get in touch with you? How can we find out more? How can we connect with you, Lynn?
Absolutely. So my website is Practice at Your Best, www.practiceyourbest.com. My email is lynn@practiceyourbest.com. And you can schedule appointments for phone calls or meetings with me on my website.
Okay, excellent. And who should consider reaching out to you?
Anybody who's got a study club and is struggling, anybody who has implant referral cases that they'd like to see, they want to elevate that game. And we find oral surgeons more are concerned about that referral network. The periodontist is good. They know what they're doing. They know how to communicate it out. The oral surgeon is the one who seems to need a little more in that communication.
And just kind of give us a little future outlook too. How do you really see the future of study clubs changing, and how do we stay ahead of the curve? What do you see going on on some of the most innovative clubs out there?
Yeah, with virtual options. Yeah, I mean, the neat thing with the virtual option is we can do these type of meetings everywhere, but that interaction, the mingling, the getting together is where that synergy and trust really develops. So it's different. It's going back to the old school way of interacting, and it really just helps maintain those relationships when you actually physically get to be with somebody. So, and this also gives you the opportunity to do hands-on, and isn't that really, when you offer hygiene classes, they want hands-on. So have the models go over how to remove a prosthetic, go over how to do the instrumentation with the new designs, the Pinheiro scalers, the Buckeye offset probes that fit real nice around prosthetics. There's some really neat ways of doing this.
Well, right, and there's something when you're doing that in person and hands-on, right? That really does help close the education gap, doesn't it?
It helps with the bonding. It helps if there's questions to really go through and answer the questions, because you think about it when it's virtual. You're retyping all the questions. What are you going to be doing there? But if it's in person and as a speaker, you can see that look when somebody has a question. You can just, where are you thinking? Where are you? Bring it in, bring the dialogue and encourage people to interact. The other is you can do a class with case presentations. You can do a class about failures. And I remember Brad Klassman, he's a periodontist in Delaware, who did a class where he asked all of his referring offices, let's all talk about failures. And that's a real strong person. And I mean, failures happen. And so it was the history, the x-rays, what are we looking for? What could we have done sooner? Really interesting class. So, this type, that class to me was magic. That was amazing.
Very, very neat. Well, Lynn, thank you for sharing so generously with us your knowledge and your insights. And before we sign off here, any closing thoughts from you?
Hey, when you're growing your business, when you as a surgeon are dependent on your referring offices, the more you can interact with your referring offices, the better the relationship's going to be. And so by having the study groups, it gives an environment where you can have interactions with your referring offices, and it just helps you grow your practice better.
Wow, no, I absolutely agree with you, and I'm so thrilled that you shared this. I know, I don't run a dental office. I want to run a wealth management practice, but I'm certainly excited about study clubs, right? Just the value, right? I was just talking with someone earlier today, and like that's when I really light up. It's when the interaction with other people takes place, right? When you can have that group learning, when you get to all advance together and co-elevate everyone. And so I love what you're doing. Thank you for sharing that message. And thank you for being just an agent of change out there.
Well, thank you so much. Hey, I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Absolutely. So, and for everyone tuning in, I'd encourage you please check out Practice at Your Best. Get in touch with Lynn. Incredible resource for you to really help you become a leader in your local community and elevate your patient care. Lynn, thank you again for being such an amazing guest.
Great. Thank you, Tim.
All right. We'll see you again here soon on the Dental Wealth Nation show.
You've been listening to Dental Wealth Nation. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from the show. Join us next time as we pull back the curtain to reveal the often hidden advice and strategies used by today's most successful individuals and families, and help maximize your net worth so you can take even better care of the people you love. Till next time, make sure to hit the website at dentalwealthnation.com.